Oh yeah, it's June, and you know what that means. New month, new release. The subscribers at CinemaShock Plus have voted, and they've elected for us to watch Masters of the Universe. It's out this week in theaters, and we're going to fight about it, Buttworms, right now on CinemaShock.
I mean, and I kind of just know what to say, but now I feel obligated to look at it for some reason.
You say you know what to say, but you don't. Sometimes you forget. Sometimes you forget the words.
Yeah, I know. And it's so tough to say one line. All right. Well, hello, and welcome to CinemaShock. It's the show that dives deep into your... See, I was looking at it, and it doesn't say it dives deep. It digs deep into the stories behind your favorite cult genre movies. I'm one of your hosts, Gary Horn.
Hey, I'm your other host, Justin Bishop. And today, bonus episode for you. We are reviewing the brand new Masters of the Universe movie, out in theaters now. This is one that was chosen by members of CinemaShock Plus. We do this every month. We pick a new release, or we pick several new releases for our members of CinemaShock Plus to vote on. This is the one that they picked for June. So if you want to help us pick what we're going to watch next month, head to cinemashock.net/plus, become a member. There's lots of other reasons to join too, but that's, I guess, the big one to highlight for today is that you get voting power. You get to decide what we're going to watch next time. We could have been watching the brand new Steven Spielberg movie this month, Disclosure Day.
I thought we would be. I thought we would be watching that movie. Yeah.
I thought that was a shoo-in, but... our CinemaShock Plus subscribers thought differently. So here we are talking about He-Man.
I'm okay with it because I don't know why. I may be getting soft in my old age or something, but I've been easier on things, and then I've been having this, I don't know if it's grappling with getting older, but I don't want to say it's nostalgia, but I've been thinking about childhood a lot more, like times when I was younger and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, this movie captured me early, like in the previews and everything, like trailers for the movie and all of that. For some reason, I got super excited to see this movie. I was as pumped about seeing this movie as any other movie this year.
Wow.
I was ready to see He-Man.
Wow.
I don't know why. I just thought it seemed like it looked fun. And I was just thinking about how much I used to love He-Man. And I was like, this will be cool. I can't wait to see this.
Yeah, I was kind of the same way. I guess we'll get into our history with He-Man because we're both kind of like old farts who grew up on this stuff. But before we do that, real quick note about spoilers. I don't know that we really need to get into spoilers on this one. I don't know that there's really a lot to spoil. But if we decide we're going to get into spoilers as we go, we will shove them to the end of the episode. So we'll make sure that we properly warn everyone if we decide to do that.
I think the only real spoilery things would be your post-credit sequences. This movie has 3, so sit through the credits if you go to see it. But,
but there's one of those that I might want to discuss. So yeah, if we decide to do that, we'll do it at the end. If you haven't seen the movie yet, you just want to know our opinion on it, you are safe. We're not going to spoil anything until much later. All right, so Masters of the Universe. This was Mattel's big follow-up to Greta Gerwig's Barbie. Barbie, of course, Barbie was huge. I mean, when I say huge, Barbie made $1.5 billion when it came out in 2023. It's one of the highest grossing films of the year. It appeared on a ton of, best top 10 of the year lists. It was met with a lot of critical acclaim. It got 8 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. So it kind of makes sense that Mattel would want to try to continue that success with another movie based on one of their popular toy lines. I would say outside of Barbie, Masters of the Universe probably is their other most popular one. This is the one that was kind of geared more towards boys, and Barbie was geared more towards girls. And for a lot of us who grew up in the 80s, like me and Gary, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, that was a Saturday morning mainstay. I know it was in my house, because I was kind of at the perfect age for it. By the time I was watching the show, they'd already stopped producing new episodes, I think, but it was still in regular rotation on TV, and the toys were everywhere. The toys were inescapable. Like if you walked through a Walmart or a Toys R Us, RIP, there were rows and rows of Masters of the Universe toys. Did you collect a lot of the toys when you were a kid?
Oh, dude, I had them all.
Yeah.
And I had Castle Grayskull and Snake Mountain. Snake Mountain had
I didn't
a
have Snake
microphone
Mountain.
that came out of it. Yeah, and you could like talk into the microphone, and it was like to make your voice sound booming, like coming out of Snake Mountain or whatever. It wasn't really like electric or anything. It was just some like weird filter thing they had built into the plastic microphone. But
yeah, I mean, Masters of the Universe, the He-Man cartoon and the toys were like, that was my shit. That was my favorite toy, my favorite cartoon when I was a kid. She-Ra as well. Actually, I probably watched even, because She-Ra was being made like when I was a kid, like because it didn't come on till like 85, 86, 87, something like that. So I was like, that's right, like when I was getting into He-Man around that time. So She-Ra was new, so I was really into She-Ra as well, and I had those toys. My mom even, like a couple weeks ago, my mom texted me about this movie because she had seen a trailer and she remembered how obsessed I was with He-Man when I was a kid. So that's how obsessed I was, is that my mom is texting me about it 40 years later to remind me that there's a new Masters of the Universe movie coming out. I guess for those of us who didn't grow up in the 80s, we should say brief history lesson, very brief, but He-Man, Masters of the Universe actually started as a toy line, not as a cartoon. It was a toy line first, created by Mattel, starting in 1982. And the action figures all came packaged with little mini comics, which built out the mythology of Prince Adam and Skeletor and Eternia and all that stuff. And then in 1983, like the next year, Filmation created this wildly popular cartoon based on the toy line. And that series ran for a couple of years, 130 episodes. There's a lot of material was produced for it. And that cartoon is probably the definitive version of Masters of the Universe. That's what most people think of when they think of He-Man, is that cartoon. Although there have been like 5 or 6 other animated series over the years. Most recently, there was Masters of the Universe Revelation, which was the one created by Kevin Smith for Netflix. Have you seen that one?
I never watched it, but yeah, I was just thinking about, I was excited to go watch it, and I just never did. I don't know why, but
yeah, I didn't see it. I was reading up on it. I remember when it got announced and when it came out and everything, but I just never bothered watching it. But it's apparently a direct sequel to the original animated series. It ignores all the other cartoons. And looking at the voice cast, like looking at the voice cast makes me want to check it out, because I was going through the Wikipedia page looking at the cast today, and it's like Mark Hamill plays Skeletor. I mean, that's all I need. Mark Hamill as Skeletor is brilliant. What a brilliant choice. But there's also like Sarah Michelle Gellar plays Teela. Alicia Silverstone plays the Queen. What's her name? Marlena, the Queen. Henry Rollins is in it. Justin Long, Tony Todd, Method Man, William Shatner, Danny Trejo. Like all these guys.
Jesus.
Yeah. That's not even everyone. I mean, there are other big names in there. Of course, because it's Kevin Smith, Jay Muse has a voice in there. But it's crazy.
That's amazing.
Like, yeah, it's incredible. So it makes me, I was just looking at the voice cast, I was like, I gotta watch this.
Almost as amazing as the legacy of Jared Leto and Mark Hamill both sharing that they did the Joker and Skeletor.
Wow, I didn't even think about that. That's wild. But of course, there's only ever been one live action adaptation of the franchise, and it's something. I would say I can't exactly call the 1987 Masters of the Universe movie, like, I can't say it's good. Like, I can't honestly say that this is a good movie, but I still kind of like it anyway. Maybe because it's kind of bad. There's something about that movie that's really enjoyable to me.
I feel like when we rewatched it for the old show, it came up for whatever reason, and we ended up reviewing it. And I think we both walked away from it going, that was not a very good He-Man movie, but it was kind of fun as this like stupid sci-fi movie.
Yeah, it's like a sci-fi sword and sorcery, like weird 80s thing, like time capsule. It is pretty entertaining. I mean, it's got Dolph Lundgren as He-Man, and that was like his first big starring role after Rocky IV. It's got Frank Langella absolutely killing it as Skeletor. I think he's great as Skeletor. It's a mess of a movie, and it was a box office flop when it came out in 1987. In fact, it was one of the factors that led to the death of Canon Films, who produced it. Like this, and like this, I think it was this, Superman 4, Quest for Peace, and Tobe Hooper's Life Force. I think the combination of those three movies, those were like the three final nails in the coffin of Canon Films.
Yeah, they were going to do a sequel to Masters of the Universe. Even the ending of the 1987 one, like Skeletor says, "I'll be back." And people have been waiting ever since. And but instead, they turned the sequel into Cyborg, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah.
Well, they used a lot of like the sets or costumes or things that they were already keeping around for a sequel for that movie. We'll have to do an episode on Cyborg one day because that'd be a fun one to dig into. Maybe we'll do Masters and Cyborg as like a roulette double feature one day. That would be fun.
Yeah. The thing with that one is that they just they didn't embrace fully He-Man. Like they felt like they needed to ground it in Earth. Well, I mean, probably budgetary reasons too. For that.
Sure.
But you know, so it didn't feel like the toys you were playing with. It was this different version. Now, I will say, for all that's worth, I was such a huge fan of He-Man. I legitimately, this is going to sound grosser than I mean it to, but as a kid, had a poster of Dolph Lundgren as He-Man up above my bed. So not
oily.
like on the ceiling.
Just covered in oil.
I literally was thinking about it, and I remember asking my dad. I was just saying, like, man, he looks so cool. Like, I want to, like, when I grow up, I want my body to look like that. And my dad going, like, well, you got to eat your vegetables. And there is more to it than that.
Yeah,
I got to tell you.
Yeah, just eating vegetables won't do it. There's a lot of training and stuff that goes on.
Right.
But ever since that, and especially since it flopped and the sequel didn't materialize, you know, it's been decades since we've had a live action He-Man movie, and there's been a new one in development in some form for at least the last couple of decades. I know John Woo got attached to do a live action Masters of the Universe movie back in like 2007, so like almost 20 years ago.
That was with Warner Brothers, and I think like even Joel Silver was attached to it.
Yeah, Joel Silver's been attached to it, like Rian Johnson, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who I think would be a great choice to do a Masters of the Universe movie, honestly. McGee, David Goyer, like all kinds of people have been either attached to it or in discussion at some point.
Actually, now that you're saying it, I remember reading now too that like they were going to call one of them Grayskull was the idea, and it was like produced by Joel Silver and Justin Marks was the writer, and it was supposed to lean into the style of 300. That's what they were going to go with.
Oh, interesting.
So, which is ironic considering what we got, I think. You know, just that hyper macho 300 take of that movie would have. It's kind of interesting where it goes.
Yeah, and I have to feel like if it had come out like in 2007, 2010, something like that, they would have really been trying to cash in on or jump on that Batman Begins like gritty realism train, which would have fucking ruined He-Man. Honestly, like that's not the approach to take to He-Man. So I'm kind of glad none of those things happened. And I think it was in 2018 when the ball on this one really started rolling. These two brothers, Aaron and Adam Nee, who are writers, directors, they signed on to do it. They've done a few movies. Like the most recent one they've done is The Lost City with Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock that came out a couple years ago. So they were writing and directing it. At some point when that version was being developed, and that was being done for Netflix, Netflix pulled out for whatever reason. I think budgetary stuff or whatever. And so when Netflix pulled out, Mattel started shopping it around to other studios. Eventually it landed at Amazon MGM. And while it was kind of bouncing around, the Nee brothers left the project and moved on to other things. And then Travis Knight was hired to direct the movie, with his frequent collaborator Chris Butler being hired to rewrite the screenplay, which was based on an earlier draft written by the Nee brothers. Now, I remember when I saw Knight and Butler's name attached to it, my curiosity was piqued, because these guys, if you don't know their names, you at least know their work. They are, for a long time, they've worked with the stop motion studio Leica. the folks responsible for Coraline, Paranorman, Kubo and the Two Strings, Missing Link, all that stuff. Butler wrote and co-directed several films for the studio. Knight directed Kubo, which is, in my opinion, maybe the best of Laika's output. It's certainly my favorite. And then he made his live-action debut with the Transformers spinoff Bumblebee in 2018, another movie based on a toy franchise, oddly enough. I never saw Bumblebee, but I remember people really loving it when it came out. Did you ever get around to that one?
I didn't, but yeah, I had seen where I've always wanted to watch it, and I don't know, the other Transformers burned me out, I guess.
Yeah,
but apparently this one embraced more of the 80s aesthetic of what the Transformers were.
Yeah, it was really well received. Critics and audiences really liked it. And I just never got around to it for the same reason, because the other Transformers movies I don't enjoy. So it was hard for me to get invested in a spinoff. But aside from Bumblebee, I guess, none of these projects, like the stuff with Laika, none of that really screams, hey, these guys should do He-Man. But it does let me know that these guys have got the chops to make a good movie. They've got a good track record. So, it brings me in being somewhat optimistic. And then just like you, I saw the trailers, and then that combined with, this being made by filmmakers who I think do good work, I got really excited for it for the same reason that you did, because as a kid who grew up with the cartoon and the toys, I was stoked to see those images accurately brought to life in that trailer. I remember being so excited when that shot of Castle Grayskull popped up in the trailer, because it looked like the playset that I had when I was a kid. Like, it looked like Castle Grayskull. So, like, I was watching it going, like, these guys are making a He-Man movie, and they're not embarrassed about it being a He-Man movie. They're not worried about it being realistic or whatever. They're going to make designs based on the toys, which I thought was the approach to take.
Right. I agree with you. That was the thing that was appealing to me, is my main hope for the movie from the trailer was just that, like, unlike the 87 version, I was like, this one looks like the toys I played with.
Right.
And that I want to see that on screen. The movie that little Gary would have loved to have had.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, then let's talk about the movie that we ended up getting. I want to hear your thoughts on it first.
Yeah. Well, I read your review on Letterboxd, so I will say that I think we disagree by maybe a half star.
Okay.
Probably. There's a piece of me that would have given it 4. And then there's a part of me that's like, okay, you're just excited. Just calm down. It's probably 3.5. But because for me, not only did I get to see what I wanted to see, which was the toys I played with up on screen in live action, I also saw it with a great audience, so I think that impacted it. Like, we'll talk about details of the movie, but like, these people were like clapping and howling with laughter and just excited through the whole movie. It felt like, and then at the end got the applause and like excitement in the post-credit stuff, like people like, yes! And just, it was fun. It was just fun seeing it with all these people. And there was a mix of people, like kids and adults, which I know one thing the movie's getting is like not enough kids seeing it or whatever. But the movie is messy, but I think it is a net positive, in my opinion. Like, I think it did enough that outweighs its flaws, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has its flaws, and I had a pretty decent theatrical experience. I saw it on 4DX because when I was buying tickets, I was like, you know what the hell? If I'm going to see a movie on 4DX, this feels like the type of movie I should be seeing on 4DX, where it turns it into a Disney ride.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that. Like, what do they do in 4DX?
Oh, dude, have you ever been to a 4DX?
No. So that's why I was curious.
Okay,
like,
so
what happens in a 4DX experience for Masters of the Universe?
So what a 4DX is, for those who don't know, it's there's also, like, I think there's another franchise, like, it might be AMC or somebody who does the D-Box, and I think they're pretty similar, but 4DX is Regal's, like, proprietary thing, where the seats themselves move. So the seats move back and forth. Think of like Star Tours or something like that at like Disney World, right? The seats move, and it's synced to action scenes and whatnot in the movie, but there are also moments where, like, there's flashes of light, and they have like these lightning like lights on the side of the theater that'll flash at certain points of the movie. There are moments where, like, if you get splashed with water, it'll mist you with a little bit of water. It's not a lot. You're not like getting soaked, but there's a little bit. And scenes where there's like a big explosion or something, there are smoke machines in the front of the theater, and smoke plumes will go up in front of the screen. But I mean, the biggest thing is the moving seats, especially in some of like the action sequences. Like, there's a really great like chase scene in the movie where He-Man is on this sort of like flying motorcycle type thing. They're being pursued by Skeletor's forces. That was probably the highlight of the 4DX experience to me, because I mean, it lends itself very well to being like a ride type scene. So like you were flying. I mean, you're not strapped into those seats, so they can't like move you like too much, but you feel yourself bouncing a lot. And it's pretty fun. It's awesome. Pretty fun. I don't think it's right for every movie. I think for a lot of movies, it's probably not even right for the first time you experience it. But there was something about this movie that felt like it just felt right to me to do that. Now, some of the people that were in my theater, most of them were really cool. Unfortunately, directly next to me were some shitty little kids who were barely paying attention to the movie. And they were just like fucking around with each other the whole movie instead of watching it. They, I think, were the only people in the whole theater to be doing that. They just happened to be sitting directly next to me, which was a little bit annoying.
Yeah, of course they were.
Yeah. So they were distracting me in a theatrical experience that is already sort of inherently distracting because you're getting yeeted all over the place by your chair. And they were distracting me from that experience. So anyway, overall, though, my audience did really love it. And people were cheering. People were clapping at the right moments. People did cheer at the end or applaud at the end, which I thought was really cool. I saw it Thursday night, like opening night. So it was all people who were stoked enough about this movie to see it as soon as it came out. But I agree that it is kind of a mess. And, you know, I'm fine with a movie that's a little messy if it's messy because it's taking big swings and big chances, as long as it's still fun. And sometimes those big swings, even if they're a miss, can be part of the enjoyment of the movie for me, because I like to see people trying weird stuff. Like, you know, we've talked about this with like The Bride. I don't think that's necessarily the case with this movie. I do think it's very fun, but I don't think it's not like making big swings or weird choices that are intriguing. It's just its messiness, I think, comes from a movie struggling with its own identity. Like there are big chunks of this movie where it is very much a He-Man and the Masters of the Universe movie. Like the universe that's being built out, the design of the vehicles, the costumes, the sets. It is a He-Man movie. But there are other times in the movie where it doesn't quite feel comfortable in its own skin. Like it doesn't quite know what it wants to be or who it wants to be for. Like, do we try to appeal to new, younger audiences, or do we appeal to the Gen Xers and the elder millennials who grew up on this stuff? Ideally, you want to do both. And I think Barbie is a good example, you know, an obvious example or comparison to make, but a good example of a movie that works for everyone. But it is a very fine line to tread, and I'm not sure this movie is quite able to navigate that line. So it feels a little jarring sometimes.
I attributed a bunch of the mess to also just the journey that it's been on, just bouncing around. It felt like there were some like different ideas of what this movie would be that had probably happened throughout the creation of it. And, you know, like, because I feel like when you look at the story attribution, I can't remember like on IMDb if it lists like everybody, but I know they were pulling from, there's like literally when you look at the writers for this movie, you've got like 6 people on it, you know, or something. So it's like, it feels like there are points where there are plot lines they didn't finish, or like somebody was going to focus on, and then they were just like, well, we're not going to get to that. And I also get that there's a lot of characters. Like there's going to be, you know, a lot of, I'll just say here that like one of the characters I keep seeing is Orko, who's a huge character on the comics, like an expected character. And, you know, he's not in any of the trailers, and people I know were like looking for him. And when you're watching the movie, you're like, God, there's so many, because there were so many toys, and so there's probably everybody's got their own favorite toys and that sort of thing, and they're all like cool little unique looking characters, and so you want to see everybody, and it's impossible to get everybody in, and even the ones you get in, some of them you're only going to get to see a little bit of, and
Right.
so anyway, I think that's part of the problem. Like, I mean, not that doesn't have to be overall part of the problem with the script itself, except like if you keep it focused. But it just feels like. So the example I would give is like Alison Brie as Evil Lynn is great, and Alison Brie is great, but as that character, like she's in the movie a good amount, but it feels like there was more to her that they wanted to get to, but they kind of just had to drop it by the end of it. Like they were just
it kind of hints at like her and like her dynamic with Skeletor without really digging into it very much, which I get. It's not like this is not a movie that is going to dig into the psychology of these characters and things like that. But I know what you mean. Like there are characters that feel like they should be a bigger focus. And the movie's long. It's too long, honestly. It's
I was literally about to say way too long.
And I'm not one to complain about long movies. What I always say is that a movie make a movie as long as it needs to be. Some movies, Lord of the Rings, needs to be 3 hours long. I've seen plenty of movies that 3 hours long is what it takes to tell that story. This is a 2.5 hour long movie that needed to be an hour and 45 minutes. There's no reason for this movie to be 2.5 hours long. It's not necessary. It's not necessary to tell this story.
If it's of service to the story, it makes sense for it to be longer. But there are absolutely scenes in this movie, which, sounds like, again, that I'm going to be shitting on it, but I've already said I really liked it. But there are absolutely scenes in the movie that I'm like, this didn't have to be there. And this, definitely some jokes that could have been cut out. There were, what scene that really stood out to me, just thinking about it now, is there is a scene where Tila and He-Man next to a crashed ship are having a discussion about, basically kind of their relationship, and it almost like kind of teases this romantic interest and then like their friendship, and there's a little dumb joke that happens with it, and it's like that whole scene, I remember watching it going like, you didn't have to do that. Like you didn't have to do any of this.
Well, especially because it doesn't go anywhere later on in the movie. That's the thing. Like
exactly. That's what I mean. It goes nowhere for the story. It doesn't matter. Like you don't ever.
You can
touch
take
on
it out,
again.
and it's not going to affect anything else in the movie at all. And I think that's what's frustrating. The most frustrating part about this is because it is so close to being a really great blockbuster, but there are decisions all over the place that kind of undercut what the movie's trying to do. And I'll get into some more about that in a minute. But first, since we've already mentioned a couple of the characters and cast members, what were your thoughts on the cast in general?
Well, this is the part why I want it to succeed, because I think that literally everybody in the cast was, almost everybody in the cast was awesome. I thought it was really well done. I was fine with it. If I was being real shitty, and I don't even want to say this out loud, but I think like the weakest part was Camila Mendes as Tila. Yeah. I think she's fine, and I don't know that it's necessarily her, but
I think she's not given enough to do.
Yeah. I just think there's just something about her storyline. I see what they were trying to do with it, but I just don't think hers clicks as well.
Yeah.
But I think overall the cast works, and like I would love to get to have more sequels with this cast of people.
Yeah, I mean, I think Alison Brie and Idris Elba, as far as like the supporting cast goes, are the standouts. They both, Alison Brie, like you said, as Evil Lynn, there was a lot more she could do that the filmmakers could do with her character, but with what she's given, I think she's fantastic in the role. I think Idris Elba is incredible. I think they're the two that when you watch them, as the kids say, understood the assignment. Like, they know exactly what type of movie they're in.
Idris Elba is, I don't know, I guess I feel like the filmmakers also knew understood the assignment, or they knew what kind of movie they were trying to make. And if you need that father figure role that's like a mentor, like Idris Elba is your guy. He's like the king's, if he's like the king's right hand man who's also a mentor to the younger guy, he's, because he nails it in Pacific Rim, like kind of the same kind of a role, and he also in Thor as Heimdall, like he's just kind of like he has this role of like a, you know, like the man at arms, but also like teaching life lessons to the young guy.
Well, he's also really funny. And he can be funny in a lot of things. I mean, for a lot of people, unless you saw him on The Wire first, for a lot of people, I think their first exposure to Idris Elba was on The Office, where he was very funny. But he's a different type of funny here. I think that him and Alison Brie both kind of lean into the silliness of this whole world in a way that a lot of the cast doesn't. But Elba in particular, you can see that he is having the time of his life. Like, he is having a blast. He probably grew up, I mean, he's older than us, but he probably also grew up with He-Man toys. You know, he was probably in his, late preteens, early teens or something when those were popular. But he's definitely like, he's having a lot of the fun, the joy that he's having in creating the character of Man-at-Arms comes across on the screen. And I think he is like very much a standout in this.
I know we'll probably dig more into stuff like needle drops and humor and stuff like that here in a little bit. But the one thing, if I could say for Idris Elba, is that as far as humor goes in this movie, not all the jokes land, but there is the one scene where like Skeletor appears in the sky and
the butt worms.
He says, "You are butt worms," to me. And he's like, he called us butt worms. The way he says it,
it's so
I
good.
fucking lost it.
I did too. I did too. That one cracks me up. He is like Idris Elba. People don't think of him as a comedian, but the guy he's got his comedy timing down. He should be in more comedies. He is so good in this, I think, and that's a perfect example of him. Just like that line is funny, but it's funnier because of his delivery, because of how he says it.
It's the way he says it. Yeah,
it's so funny.
It's so good.
But I think that the performance in this movie that really surprised me was Jared Leto as Skeletor. I had no idea that Jared Leto was in this movie. I mean, I'm sure I saw the casting news at some point in time, but I guess I blocked that from my memory. And then, like, watching this, the whole time I was just thinking, wow, whoever is playing Skeletor is fantastic, because he's just like the right blend of campy and frightening. And I was expecting someone like, I honestly, when I was watching it, thinking like, who is this? Who's playing this? I kept thinking of Peter Serafinowicz, a big British comedian. He's in Guardians of the Galaxy, actually. Is it Guardians? He's in, yeah, I think it's that one. But he's a guy who's got a comedy pedigree, a comedy background, who can also be big and intimidating when the role calls for it. So that's kind of, I was thinking of someone like that. Because this Skeletor, this version of Skeletor, alternates between being hilarious and a legitimate threat, even to the people who work closest to him. Like he's a really great villain. Skeletor in general, I think, is one of the highlights of the movie. And then the credits roll, and I see that it's Jared fucking Leto, a guy who I've never seen be funny before. Like, I cannot think of a comedic role that he's ever done. And listen, this is coming from a longtime Jared Leto hater. That guy, he just grates me. There's something about Jared Leto that just grates me. But I have to admit how unbelievably good he is in this role.
I don't know how many reviews I saw online, like just posts or letterbox reviews that were just like, basically a version of the same joke. Breaking news, the worst person you know is outstanding in this movie.
Yeah, right. In a movie where the attempts at comedy don't always land, he is consistently funny in this. In fact, he gets like the first big laugh of the movie. It's sort of at the beginning of the extended, I guess, prologue of the movie, where he has a big evil laugh. and he lifts his arm up, and it's where he says, "That's the crescendo." You know what I'm talking? You know the scene I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I know.
And
that's it. I'm done. I'm done. When I laugh like that, it's over.
Yeah, it's a great joke. And up until that point, I was actually a little bit worried that the movie was going to take itself too seriously, because there hadn't really been any jokes before that. Because it's a lot of very serious stuff, like the Grayskull or Eternia getting attacked by hordes from Skeletor, and then it ends in that joke, and I was like, "Oh, that's what we're doing." Okay.
Yeah. Well, I see. He's one, at least. It's a combination of his acting, but also just they allow that character to do this well enough that, like, you want him to be a good villain, but also, like you said, you need to be able to be loose with it. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is this, like, he is funny, but also they let him do some things that are pretty villainous in the movie, like legitimately villainous, and he will kill you. And he, like he's not fucking around either, like as far as that goes, So that's, I love that balance that they get out of Skeletor.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's even threatening, like I said, to the people like who work for him. The other bad guys are scared of him. Now, I am less enthusiastic about Nicholas Galitzine as He-Man. What did you think of him?
I was not a fan of him at first, and he grew on me as the movie went along. And I actually liked him. I think for the He-Man that they're trying to make, at least that they're hoping will happen by making this movie, I think he does embody what they're looking for. There's a dumb bro side of him, and just like a dumb face, and just like like the jock dummy guy that's like in that kind of movie. But also there's this other side to him that I think he has this legitimate, earnest, like, sweetness about him that works for what they're trying to do. There's something charismatic, or to me at least, that made you kind of pull for him a little bit, like that you could see why people would like him and follow him.
I would agree with that. I agree that he does have a sweetness to him that is endearing. I think that he is very likable. I think that he's really good in the action scenes. And I haven't seen Galitzine in a lot of stuff. I think Bottoms might be the only thing I've seen him in. But I've never seen him in anything even remotely close to this, so I don't really have a point of reference for his performance. But I do think where he doesn't work for me is when it's called on to be funny. I think, and this is partially from some of the writing. I also think his comedic timing, his comedic delivery is not great. And for a movie that is filled with jokes, a lot of which he has to say, that's not a good thing. And as a result, a lot of the jokes that his character says, they just don't work for me. I don't think the script's doing him any favors in that department, but there's something about his delivery of a lot of the jokes that just don't land. And it doesn't help that the characters in the movie, the way that his character is sort of portrayed and referred to in the movie, they talk about him like he's some pencil neck dork, which, and from the way the character's arc is written, makes sense. But Galitzine is visibly bulging out of that button-up shirt that he wears. Like, the guy is built like a professional wrestler, and it's like the movie expects me to view him like he's this little weakling. Like, there's a scene where he goes to the gym, and he's acting like he can't pick up those weights. I'm like, dude, you're built like a fucking linebacker. There's no way you can't pick up those weights.
You've been working out your whole life. It is clear that you have been working out. You don't have that jawline from, like, just playing video games all day.
Yeah.
So I get it. I will say I don't think that I wasn't thinking about that as much until because like even the gym scene, when I saw the gym scene happen, I took it as he's depressed. Mm-hmm. Like I wasn't thinking of it as like he's supposed to be a weakling. I just was like, he goes to the gym and he's just like not feeling it. He's not feeling his life. He's down on his luck. He's bummed out. And I didn't register it another way until they make it a point in the first He-Man transformation to show his muscles bulging out. And I'm like,
Right.
well,
No,
I'm like, okay,
have
I guess
eyeballs.
they're showing he's trans. Yeah.
Like yeah.
They make it look like he's growing muscles and
Exactly.
is surprised that he has muscles. And I'm like, oh, well, he clearly had the muscles.
Yeah, when he first transforms into He-Man with the use of the Sword of Power for the first time, you get these like CGI close-ups of his muscles they're showing them grow. That's what you're saying. Like they're showing his muscles get bigger, like he's Steve Rogers turning into Captain America, except he already looked like Captain America before the transformation. So it's expecting us to, and like even afterwards, we get a point of view shot of him looking down. He's like, oh, like I've got abs now. It's like, dude, did you think we didn't notice that this guy's built like a freight train already through the whole movie? Like he is enormous. He's wide as a refrigerator, and it's like the movie thinks we're idiots who don't realize that. Now, I don't know the solution to that other than doing a Steve Rogers and making him like a skinny little dude for the first half of the movie, but otherwise, don't make it a thing. Just don't focus on it. Don't try to make a joke out of it, because all you're doing is pointing it out to us who, like, we know the guy is big. We see him on screen. It's just a very weird decision to make.
Yeah, that's how I took it. Like what I thought about it, because I was just like, why did you even feel that was necessary?
Yeah.
Like I didn't, like it's okay for him to. I was just accepting him as a dude who was struggling with who he was as a person, not that he needed to also be buff. You know, like,
or don't put him in a skin tight Oxford shirt for the whole movie. Like put him in something that covers up his frame, like instead of something that hugs it the whole time. Like at least hide it or something if you're gonna try to do that. And it's just a very, very strange decisions being made. Now I feel like I'm being a little harsh on the movie, and I don't want to be, because like you, I do think that it's mostly very fun. Like when it works, it really works. I think. I love the look of Eternia. I love, like I said earlier, when I saw the trailer, the same thing runs through the whole movie. I love that the characters are accurate to the look of the cartoon and the toys, which means they look really goofy. Because they do. And the movie embraces that goofiness, I think. The goofiness of the design. Way more so than like the Dolph Lundgren one did. Because there's no way to really make a Masters of the Universe movie and it not be goofy. If you try to take it too seriously, then you still end up coming across as goofy, because it's a movie about a half-naked, like, Viking warrior alien who lives in a castle shaped like a skull using a magic sword to fight a skeleton. And he's got a giant talking green tiger as his sidekick. You have to lean into that goofiness. Otherwise, it might as well, like, make it look intentional, right? And I think this movie does that. And I think it does a great job with that.
Oh, everything down. What was exciting me throughout the movie is like even stuff I wasn't looking for and had locked out of my mind or memory or something. I got a bunch of memory unlocks, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Like from characters to the ships, like not necessarily the one like the bigger ship that like Tila flies, but like the little motorcycle type ship that Adam drives. That's straight from the cartoon. I remember those specific ships, the ones that are chasing them. I remember those toys. And so like seeing stuff like that, I was having like, I don't know, throughout the movie, I kept having these fun, like, oh yeah, I remember that. And, so it was like, these people have really studied this mythology, this lore. And I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, and I think them leaning into the silliness of it and embracing the silliness of it means that it makes sense to turn this into it's a comedy. I mean, this is an all-out comedy. It's not an action movie with comedy. It is a comedy with action scenes. It is very silly. There's this running gag in the movie that I think perfectly encapsulates both the embrace of the goofiness and the comedy. And it's the heroes of Eternia, the toys, and in the original cartoon, they all had very dumb names. Ram Man, Mechanic, Fisto. In the movie, and I don't consider this a spoiler, but in the movie, it turns out that these were just the names that Adam gave them when he was a kid because he didn't know their real names. So they have a bunch of dumb names that like an 8-year-old would come up with. So the guy with the big fist is named Fisto because, I mean, that makes sense. What parent is going to name their child Fisto? I mean, hopefully no parents are naming their child Fisto.
Yeah, I actually really liked that part. I thought that part was fun, that these were like drawings that he made as a child, and he was just like remembering things and naming them. I was okay with that. Even when you get to the very final name, you know, like that closes it out, you know, kind of, and like where we get to He-Man, basically.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I don't know. For some reason, like I was watching it thinking, like, I wonder if this is going to bother a lot of people, because it doesn't bother me. Like I'm kind of cool with that. Like,
I think it's very funny. I think it's a great joke. I think it lands the whole time, and it's a recurring joke that they bring up over and over, and it's pretty much funny the whole time because of these guys' reactions to like you call me Fisto? Yeah, it's because you have a big fist. It's a funny joke. I can't say that for all of the comedy in the movie because. And because it leans so much into comedy, I think it's an issue that a lot of the comedy does not land, at least not for me.
I thought more of it worked than didn't. But I will say there were some times where I got like the little cringe, you know, like I was just like, that's not that good. One of them, a couple of them are, you covered already with Galitzine's delivery doesn't work on some of the things. Like, for one, an example I can think of right off the top of my head is like him being behind the ship and Idris Elba's trying to point behind him, and he does I even, like, before that happened, in my brain, I swear to God, I was watching it, was like, don't do the you think he's waving thing. And then he does the you think he's waving thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, Jesus. And I don't know, for some reason, that would scrape my nerves. And then, and there's comedy that... This is where the messy also comes in, because it seems like they're trying. When they get to Fisto, there are Fisto jokes that are inappropriate for a child, but I was okay with. Like, I was like, these, well, the first time at least. Like, it works a little bit. Like, I'm like, okay, it's a little over kids' heads. It's something for the adults. I'm fine with it. But then there's some like right on the nose, like you know, I you know, maybe these are spoilers. I hope not. But there's like the joke with like Cringer where Tila says pussy, and I'm like,
Tila calls Cringer a pussy, and yes, it's a pussy cat, but she just flat out looks, because Cringer's scared to like run into battle or something like that, and she just looks at him and goes pussy. Like, that's not a joke. That's not funny. That's the thing. And I'm not. I mean, anyone who listens to our show knows that we are not prudes. Like, these are the types of, like, we get. I would love a good fisting joke. Like, that's
right.
That's funny.
There was like a level to it. There was a level to the Fisto jokes, you know, that it's just like, who needs to know knows, and who doesn't need to know won't get it. And
and
that's fine.
Some of those jokes feel like they just wandered in from a completely different movie. There's a give 'em head joke with Ram Man, and it's like, I mean, I laughed at the first fisting joke. The pussy joke, I was like, did she just say pussy like in a He-Man movie? Like, it's not that, like, yes, this is a kids movie. Yes, it's for adults, but it's to me, this felt less like them just trying to be edgy and more like insecurity. Like, the movie doesn't quite trust itself to be fun without like trying really hard to prove that this is also for adults. That's what it felt like to me. Well, I think the biggest issue with this movie for me is it all stems from its desperate desire to be Guardians of the Galaxy. I think it's so obvious, almost to a point of being pathetic, that this is what the movie is going for. And it doesn't work. It does not work for this movie. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy is also a comedy. It's very, very funny. James Gunn is a brilliant comedy writer. But part of what makes him so good and what makes those movies work so well is that James Gunn's comedy is always rooted in character. So as a result, the jokes always feel natural. They don't feel forced. Like, Star-Lord is funny because he's kind of an idiot, but he's also very genuine. And a lot of the jokes are come from that standpoint. Gamora is overly serious, and a lot of the jokes around her character come from that. Drax is oblivious. He's way too literal. And then you throw all these dynamics together and let them bounce off each other, and that works because they have a relationship. These characters work. All the jokes are coming from who we already know those characters to be. But here, the comedy is not rooted in character most of the time. To me, you say they mostly work. I think about a third of the jokes work in here, and I think the other 2/3 of them just land with a big old flop. Like the theater I was with, the crowd was really into it. Like I said before, they were cheering, they were laughing. But there were a lot of jokes where when the joke ended and the movie almost paused for laughter, you could hear a pin drop in that theater. Nobody in that theater was laughing. The theater I was in was full.
That was like the opposite of what I got, because there were jokes I didn't think were funny, like the pussy joke that people howled at in the damn theater.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's not that funny. But there are people laughing at this. And so that was like maybe where I give it a little bit of leeway. I mean, another thing is that we're going to disagree on a little bit is that, I mean, I get the Guardians of the Galaxy thing, but I saw your review right before I went in to see it. And so then Jennifer was with me and she was asking like, well, what are people saying about it? I was like, I don't know. I was like, I've seen a couple, like Justin mentioned it being like Guardians of the Galaxy and like yada, yada, yada. And we've just watched Guardians of the Galaxy because we do Marvel Mondays. And so it's like pretty fresh in our minds. And we went and watched it. And afterwards, her first thing was like, I didn't feel like that was like Guardians of the Galaxy. And I was like, I didn't really either. Like it does, like some obvious things it does, but no more so that it feels like The Lion King, or it feels like The Last Starfighter, or it feels like I don't know. To me, more than anything, nobody remembers this fucking movie anymore, but what I watched as a kid. But it's Flash Gordon. Like, if anything, I was like, this is Flash Gordon. Like, that's the tone it's really going for.
Well, I think the Guardians thing to me is both in the way that it tried to construct its humor and the dynamic between the characters, because the way that Tila acts towards Adam's kind of a dumbass. He's the Star-Lord character. She's very serious and very all business, very much like Gamora. The dynamic there was the same. And I mean, the most obvious evidence is that it has this constant need to have needle drops in the movie, and like through the whole movie, and like using pop songs in a movie, using them well is a skill. You can't just drop any song into any scene and expect it to work. And in Guardians of the Galaxy, the music has purpose. Like, it's directly tied to Star-Lord's character and backstory, so every song means something. But here, the songs are just dropped into scenes with no apparent logic. Like, it feels like a studio note to me. It feels like someone in a boardroom said, hey, Guardians of the Galaxy did this, so we should do it, but nobody bothered to ask what the songs were supposed to be doing. Like, most of them don't even make sense or are just terrible. Like, the boys don't cry when, like, I felt secondhand embarrassment during that scene because that's such a bad needle drop. And I love that song. But the way it's used in the movie is not.
It didn't bother me.
It
didn't bother me. I was gonna say the boys don't cry one is the only one that didn't really like stand out to me. I was like fine with it. I was like, I get it. He's depressed. It matches what he's dealing with. So I was like, that's fine. I mean, I didn't like think it was amazing. I was just fine. Like, it's a song playing over this scene. He's suffering from being depressed about his lot in life and who he's supposed to be as a man and all of that. The characterization, like the characters themselves, like, I guess one of the things I was looking at is I was like, he made it like Adam is not Star-Lord. Star-Lord is arrogant. Like, Star-Lord is genuine, but Star-Lord is cocky and he's a ladies' man. He's like hooking up with women. He's like Jack Burton in the John Carpenter movie that's the name just escaped me for some reason. Big Trouble in Little China. Yeah. I was like, he's that guy. And this guy's like a loser. Like, this guy's not confident. He's depressed. He's like miserable. And that's why the Tila scene where he like kind of makes a move on her even stood out more to me, because I'm like, you're not that guy. Like, you don't do that. Like, you've literally never done that. You're a guy who doesn't even know how to talk to girls. And Tila, I mean, yeah, she is serious, but she's not serious all the time. She makes jokes and cuts up too. The needle drop thing I was looking for, and yeah, we're gonna agree on what's going on is like ruined. Like they could have done something different with that. I don't know what you would have done with that, but if you're gonna do it, like go all in on the meme or something maybe. But like they stop after Earth. Like they don't happen again until the very final battle, and there's one there that's referencing a joke that was made at the beginning, like where somebody says, "Who do you think you are, Highlander?" So
Yeah.
to me, I was like, "Well, that makes sense."
The one
Like,
at the end
he's-
works for me. The that one's fine. So it's not a. And when I'm making comparisons to Guardians of the Galaxy, like when I'm comparing him to Star-Lord, I'm not making a 1-to-1 comparison. I'm talking about the way that the movie treats the dynamic between these characters, because they're kind of building a team, Tila and Man-at-Arms and him, and then later on the other heroes of Eternia. I'm not making a 1-to-1 comparison saying this movie is making a clone of Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm saying that it is very much looking at Guardians of the Galaxy and saying, let's do our version of that.
Just to be clear, too, we're not disagreeing that it is all. I'm not disagreeing with you that it is obviously like trying to learn from Guardians of the Galaxy on how to do something here. So just to be clear on that.
I think that's why the needle drop thing bothers me, is because that feels like something that, like, the way that James Gunn uses his music, especially in Guardians, is very intentional. And this movie, because it's doing other things similar to other Marvel movies, but especially Guardians of the Galaxy, that feels like just one of those things where somebody looked at another movie and said, let's try our version of that, but without the thoughtfulness that he put into it. And you mentioned, like, What's Up by the Four Non-Blondes, the one from the meme. Guys, this is a very popular meme that's been on the internet for like 2 decades. It's like one of the first like big viral memes that uses that song. It's a He-Man meme. That's an easy joke that's going to crush with any audience who has ever seen that meme. And all they do is just put it over some random action scene. Like, there's no reason for it to be in that scene. There's so much more you could do with that. Show us Adam singing that song in the shower. That would have been funnier. Show him doing it at karaoke. That would have been funnier.
Right. That's what I was thinking too, is like you could have done it that way. Like somehow he's just singing it in his depression or something.
Yeah, that would be funny. Like do something with it. Like, the internet has handed you an easy home run and you fumbled it. And I'm sorry about mixing up my sports metaphors there. But they but there's so much more you could have done with that, and it would have crushed. And they also didn't do the Skeletor running away meme, which they definitely should have done. That's an easy joke.
Yeah. So I guess we disagree on Boys Don't Cry. We agree on what's going on. Maybe we agree on the Queen song that shows up in there. It also worked for me because, for those that don't know, because I loved the score to this movie. I thought it was a blast. Like the actual
Daniel
score,
Pemberton is very good. Yeah.
And you know, he got Brian May from Queen is playing electric guitar on this.
I saw that in the credits.
So,
I was like, holy shit, wow.
yeah, so I was like, it's a badass score. And so even more so towards the end, I was just like, okay, great. You know, that's fine. So the needle drops didn't get me as bad because they kind of, I could be wrong, but I'm 90% sure like they only happen in the Earth stuff, which, by the way, I don't think necessarily you had to do unless they were trying to just tie it to the 87 movie or something. He didn't have to go to Earth, but I guess it just gives you like some character arc for him, like a hero's journey.
Well, what they're doing with the Earth stuff, what I think they're doing with the Earth stuff is that they are doing another Marvel ripoff, and they're doing the Thor fish out of water thing once he gets back to Eternia, because he feels like the way that Thor is portrayed in that first Thor movie. So it's just more of them kind of like ripping off Marvel to an extent, or pulling from Marvel. There's even a little bit of Captain America and how he's like treated like a weakling, or like he's useless in those early scenes, except, they didn't bother making him look like a wimp before he got all buff, which we've already talked about.
Yeah, it just felt like that's the messy part of this whole thing, is like there feels like there's different movies in here. Like it's trying to pull. I mean, you're not going to get me to argue against James Gunn and needle drops. I mean, nobody does needle drops better than James Gunn, and the only person that probably gets close is, I guess you could say, like Edgar Wright maybe probably be your other guy.
Yeah.
That, like, when they use a needle drop, like you just don't top those guys with that. But yeah, it's I don't know. What'd you think about their messaging here? because I literally at the end of the movie, I'll never forget, had a guy yelling DEI, chanting DEI for like a few seconds at the end.
Well, I don't know what he would be referring to unless he's just mad that a black guy got cast as Man-at-Arms. I don't know what else he would be screaming.
No, he was doing it. He was doing it during the final, like, so this is a bit of a spoiler, I guess, but it's just like dialogue that happens that Adam is trying to dialogue with Skeletor and offering dialogue versus battle.
Well, that's not DEI for one thing.
And so I was going to say, that's not really DEI. and so,
that just proves that people who complain about DEI don't actually know what the fuck it is. It's just a word that they heard on Fox News that they feel like they need to complain about.
Yeah, because for me, just to put my cards on the table there, I thought that they were doing not as the movie doesn't work as well as Barbie.
No,
so I'm not saying that, but I could see that they were trying to tackle masculinity in the same way that Barbie handles, women, femininity, and so it's I guess I actually worry with that stuff sometimes, and I'll be the first person that like I'm pretty liberal or whatever the term is for like I'm open to all of this and I'm not for toxic masculinity if I need to say that, I guess, but I'm saying like I'll be the first person to be like this is too heavy-handed or shut the fuck up, and I feel like they did okay. They managed to balance it a little bit, like where it was like they made fun of the stuff they could make fun of with like the HR stuff, where it was just like it does get silly here, and then it's also like but there is a side to it to focus on over here, and they were like, it felt like to me they were understanding, I think, how a lot of boys' minds would be with that, like the stuff they want to make fun of, and this is why this is stupid as shit, and then also like saying, but there is like a thing to grapple with here, like that you could work out.
No, I think it did a good job. Like I agree. I think that they definitely looked at Barbie and were sort of like, okay, this worked really well for this. It was really, really well received. So let's look at the other side of the coin. Whereas Barbie had something to say about femininity and how women are portrayed or how they're expected to be, or how they are made to feel like they're expected to be. This is kind of doing the same thing with men, especially with young boys who grew up playing with Masters of the Universe toys, playing with He-Man toys, the idea of like expectations on what it means to be a man. And I think this movie, I think it does a pretty good job. I don't think it's heavy-handed about it. I think it's less heavy-handed than Barbie is. I think Barbie is overall a much better movie, but I do think that it is more on the nose with its messaging than this one is. But this one does definitely do that. I mean, I actually read a really cool article last night. It's a very short little article from BJ Colangelo over at Slash Film. She also hosts a really great podcast called This Ends at Prom. But she's a great writer, and she had interviewed some of the people involved in Masters of the Universe. So her article was sort of around, centered around some quotes from them about this very thing. And go check it out on Slash Film. I won't read her whole article here, but the short version of what she's saying is that this movie is doing with the concept of male masculinity what Barbie did with the expectations of femininity. And it's really asking what it means to be a man, not by rejecting strength or toughness, but by questioning whether those things alone are enough or if they're even appropriate solutions to every conflict. Because like Adam, he works in HR. That's part of the joke, is that it's ingrained in him to try to let's talk it out, and it leads to some jokes in the movie and things like that, especially towards the end. But at the end of the day, Adam's real superpower, and this is, I'm saying this based on a quote from Galitzine, because this is how he approached it. His real superpower isn't the strength given to him by that sword, by the sword of power, by the power of Grayskull. It is being able to empathize with people. And the movie is basically telling us that there's not a one-size-fits-all approach to dealing with the bad guys. In the case of Skeletor, you might have to like punch him a bunch of times, but let's try to talk it out first, right? And I think the dynamic actually between Adam and Duncan, Man-at-Arms, is at kind of the heart of this idea. Because these are two guys at different points of their lives. They're from two different generations. They have two different ideas of what men are, quote unquote, supposed to do. And by talking to each other and being open with each other throughout the movie, they both end up growing as people, and they both end up being better at the end of the movie than they were at the beginning of it.
Yeah, and I even think there's something there with Duncan, and it didn't quite click as well, but like his relationship with Tila, like how the masculinity side of things like affects her as being a daughter of this single dad, basically, and even Adam's dad. You know, they have a scene at the end, you know, like his dad's tough on him, but it's like he's trying to make him tougher, and he thinks this is the right way to do it. And because he wants him to survive and thrive in the world, you know, and that sort of thing. I was actually watching it at the end thinking like, man, you should have saved this for like a few more weeks for like Father's Day. This would have been like a good Father's Day movie or something. Yeah. Like, you know, it could have been fun for that. But yeah, I thought they did a really good job. And then I loved that they're self-aware of it enough that like Skeletor at the end of the day, you know, when they talk about Skeletor, it's just like, well, are you sure? Like, what's the underlying reason? And Tila's like, he's got a skull for a face. Like, he's the bad guy. and it's just like, and even at the end where like, you know, he's going to dialogue, but Skeletor's like, I'm the villain. Yeah. Like, that's what I do. And, you know, so you still get to have that like moment. So like, you know, it doesn't bog itself down in that. It just is like, okay, we did it. We dialogued. Now let's fight. Yeah. You still get your fight scenes. And I think all of the fight scenes, by the way, are fantastic.
They are really
great action in it.
It's got really great action. There's a lot of standouts. Like the big battle at the end, though, is beginning to end really well done. The final like fist fight between He-Man and Skeletor is really, really good. It's fun. I mean, the action scenes are fun. So like all these issues that I've said that I have with it, they don't. I'm with you. To me, it's a net positive. To me, this is overall a very enjoyable movie. I think what's so frustrating is that it could have been even better. Like this when the movie is actually being a He-Man movie, it's great. It's silly and it's weird and it's committed to being fun. It's committed to being He-Man. It just occasionally interrupts itself to try to be something else. And I think a lot of that stems from what I said earlier about it not really understanding its identity. Like, is it a He-Man movie or is it a Marvel movie? Or is it for kids or is it for 45-year-old dudes who played with these toys when they were in kindergarten? And the movie doesn't quite know how to reconcile all of that.
It's trying to do all of it, but I guess that's the thing with my overall thoughts on it, though, is like I don't know how I was watching it either. Am I watching it as an older, like an adult now, and wanting to watch it as a serious movie and it to hit all the beats right, and nail the story and the script perfectly, or was I watching it as little Gary, who was just like fucking Ram Man, Fisto, Mechanic, Battle Cat, Spike Core, Triclops, Roboto. There's fucking Trapjaw's in there. He was my favorite villain toy.
He's great.
Like,
yeah.
Trapjaw was. I was so happy to see Trapjaw, like because the toy had the jaw that moved and it had the arms you switched out, and I was like, that's so cool. Trapjaw's the best. And then it even had, but then it had like Karg was in there. I don't know if you noticed that, but he was like a villain from the 87 movie. He's not like one of the toys. He was like the long hair, like long white hair.
Oh, yeah,
villain.
yeah. I did notice him.
He was one of Skeletor's henchmen from the movie. And and Adina, the girl that pushes him in the lockers, that's apparently a character from like the He-Man comic strip that happened.
Oh, wow.
And so she was like from there. But so there was like all this attention to detail to like giving you all that. So like that Gary was excited. And then I even had the thought by the end, like when I was like rounding it all out is, and I'm thinking about like Adam's trying to be a man. He's depressed because he doesn't know where he fits in. And I'm like, this is a legitimate issue that dudes have, especially nowadays when you've got, well, one side, you've got like an Andrew Tate or somebody that's going to lead you down one path, or, you know, you're like looking for male icons, and I'm like, this guy, he's kind of reflecting that. Like he's not sure who he is if he doesn't have the sword, is basically the point of the movie throughout the whole thing. But then to learn, maybe it's not the sword that is the power. Maybe that's within you to make the right decisions and to do the right thing. I thought it did a good job of getting there, and that there are different, like you said, or BJ Colangelo said that, it's not a one size fits all approach all the time. But it's like it gets messy, which I was like, this movie's messy. Maybe messy is just the medium. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe being a dude growing up is just messy. And it's okay for this movie to be messy too. And it's okay to like kid stuff. And it's okay to understand that the movie's not the greatest movie in the world. And it's all fine. And overall, net positive, I liked Masters of the Universe. That's where I was with it.
I'm with it. I think it's worth seeing it, whether you grew up on it or not. I think it is definitely worth. It's a fun summer blockbuster. It had the potential to be great. It doesn't quite reach greatness, but I think it is still good, and I think it is definitely worth seeing with a crowd in a movie theater. Like I always, am going to be a proponent of seeing movies in a movie theater. Gary, your experience watching this movie with a stoked crowd is the evidence for my enthusiasm about going into movie theaters, because it can enhance your experience going to see a movie with the right crowd.
It certainly did mine, outside of DEI guy. So,
yeah. Well, there's always one.
there's always that guy. Let's get into spoilers for a second then.
Okay.
So before we wrap this thing up completely,
let's do it.
So there's your review and recommendation. We both like Masters of the Universe fine. You should see it with people that will have fun, and then go home and play with your toys. For some reason, while we were sitting here talking and I'm getting ready, I led the transition into spoiler territory, and then I remembered the toy called Land Shark, and I'm pretty sure that was a He-Man toy, and it was a vehicle that they rode in, and it had a shark mouth that went up and down, and I don't know why, but that just like randomly unlocked in my brain. So that's a beautiful part of this stupid movie. But
it's not in the movie, is it? Land Shark didn't make the movie.
No, it's not even in the movie. I just had the thought. I was like, Land Shark, that's a thing. Wish that was there.
Well,
maybe they'll do that again.
In the sequel.
I really, I was going to say, the hard part about this movie is that it's not doing as well as they'd hoped. And I hope that they put a little faith behind it. Because I think it's got to make like $200 million or something to like recoup the stuff, but it's only made like 40 or something this weekend. It's number 2.
Yeah, I mean it's at 55 worldwide right now. Okay. So it's still got potential to do decent. I hope it does well enough to get a sequel, because since we're in spoiler territory, we should say that it's definitely like setting up a sequel in those post-credit scenes.
You get 3 post-credit scenes. The first one is with the character that we discussed earlier, the people that I think I saw most people asking about and wondering about, that still had not yet made an appearance in a live action anywhere, but is always like He-Man's right-hand guy. It's Orko. Mm-hmm. And so you get to have Orko in the first one, and he delivers the like message of the movie, like how some of the episodes of He-Man would do.
Yeah.
And G.I. Joe back in the day, like they'd give you that little like, today's story was about this.
And knowing is half the battle.
Yeah. And that was cool. So I was happy with that. I also saw, if you look in the background, you can see Merman, which was like, I don't know if it was like Travis Knight's like favorite character or something. It was like one that they were like, we really want Merman to be in this, but we don't have a spot for him anywhere. So they like stuck him in the
Squeezed
background.
Him in there,
yeah. Yeah. Then the second one is the one that everybody's looking for, including my wife, because she did watch the show when she was a kid, and she kept asking about, is She-Ra in this? Well, she's in the mid-credit sequence, so
yeah,
that's where they're going.
I got excited for that. As soon as they like showed her from the back, I was like, oh shit, that's She-Ra. That's She-Ra. Because I watched that one a lot when I was a kid. I loved She-Ra. I watched it just as much as He-Man, and I had toys. I had toys of her. It was, I think, her cousin. It was like Bow and Arrow was his horse, and I had that toy. And his he had a heart that lit up on his chest. I remember that very distinctly. But when they show
Hordak
She-Ra,
was the villain. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Hordak was the villain. I always liked the look of Hordak. I thought he was a cool looking bad guy.
When they show her in the movie, you kind of get her like in almost silhouette. Like you can't really see her face, and I assume that's because they haven't actually cast anyone in that role yet, so they didn't want to like show a close up of her. But it's very clearly her. And then there's a post credit scene, like at the very end, where Evil Lynn, Alison Brie's character, comes and picks up the skull of Skeletor to take it, presumably to cast some sort of spell to bring him back for the sequel, because you can't just get rid of Skeletor. It's He-Man. Skeletor's always going to be there.
Yeah, Skeletor had to be back, and I think that's what I was talking about with Evil Lynn, where it felt like they just kind of dropped off with her. Like even in the final battle, she just kind of leaves. You know, like it's like there's no like finality with anything with her. Like she just kind of is like, well, I'm out, and so she just disappears. But yeah, I'd be all okay with more Skeletor and Jared Leto coming back. Although, just for the record, I did see, because Skeletor is physical. The guy that did the effects is I can't remember who made his suit. It was God, hold on. It was Barry Gower is the name of the person that did the suit. That's like did Stranger Things, like the big bad in Stranger Things, and like Game of Thrones, and like the Green Knight, and like it's just done a bunch of stuff, and like he designed the suit of Skeletor, and so Jared Leto was in the suit, but like then the mask is CG, you know,
right?
Obviously,
Of course,
and then, but anyway, I did see that Jared Leto did do Jared Leto shit on set. I think some pictures came out today. If you like look on X or something, there's of Jared Leto in the Skeletor prosthetic suit, and he has blood all over his face because he wanted to be scary, and so like he covered his face in blood.
Such a moron. I don't want to praise. I don't want to praise his performance in this because he's so fucking insufferable. but he is good in the movie, I will say.
Yeah. So anyway, he did do that. I was like, all right, well at least I meant to mention that earlier, but I was like, all right, so there is still a Jared Leto being Jared Leto thing in this movie.
Yeah, what a nerd. Anyway, I think there's not really much else to discuss for spoilers other than they do. She-Ra comes back and they do tease a sequel, which should come as no surprise to anyone. They want this to be a franchise. I hope that it does well enough to be a franchise. It's still got a ways to go, but I think it'll be fine. I think they'll probably get a sequel out of it. At any rate, Mattel has got a lot of other movies in the pipeline. I was kind of looking at their slate earlier today, and Hollywood, if there's one thing they're going to do, they're going to cash in on any recognizable IP, and Mattel owns a bunch of them. Whether or not these properties all lend themselves to narratives is the big question mark. They've got one coming out later this year that's already, I don't know if it's already completely done or it's in post-production, but it's a movie based on Matchbox cars. It's Matchbox the movie. Have you seen anything about this?
I remember seeing something about it, and I can't remember any details, though.
Well, it's being directed by Sam Hargrave. So as much as I want to be cynical about it, Sam Hargrave, he's a stunt coordinator. He's the guy who did Extraction for Netflix and the sequel, and those movies are pretty fun. So at least I know it'll have good like action scenes. It's got Jessica Biel and John Cena in it, so decent cast. Comes out on Apple TV later on in October, I think. But that's the only one that's like got a release date right now. Other ones that are in various stages of development include Hot Wheels, which I don't know how you make a Matchbox movie then make a Hot Wheels movie and somehow expect them to be different since they're both just about toy cars. But there's also there's a live action Thomas the Tank Engine movie coming. They're doing Polly Pocket. They're doing Monster High. And somehow they are making movies based on Viewmaster, a Magic 8 Ball, and the Uno card game. I don't know how this
They got to be like horror movies or something, right?
Maybe. I don't know how you do that. The one that I can get behind is Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Nice.
They're making a Rock'em Sock'em Robots movie.
Although I did see Real Steel, which was good and was that kind of.
I would argue that we did already get a great Rock'em Sock'em Robots movie with Real Steel with Hugh Jackman, which is an underrated movie that you should see. But Gary, this new one is being produced by and starring Vin Diesel.
Well, I'm in. I'm already movie of the year. So it's,
Rock'em Sock'em Robot starring Vin Diesel, coming soon to a theater near you, or coming soon to a CinemaShock bonus episode near you, because maybe you'll end up choosing that one for us to review down the line.
I was thinking about Real Steel again, and I was like, you'd have to work pretty hard to like top what they did with the Rock'em Sock'em Robot idea. And then you said Vin Diesel, and I was like, and they did. So,
there you go. Level up.
That's the thing you could have done. So good job for you.
Good job, Mattel.
I don't know why I just thought of this too, but I wanted to mention you. Oh, because you were saying Ken Hargrave was the stunt guy.
Sam Hargrave, yeah.
Sam Hargrave, sorry. That Christian Bettridge, who played Adina or whatever in the movie, I thought it was cool. Like she's got like a role, like she's a stunt performer. Like apparently, like she's like Gal Gadot's stunt woman in like everything, and then like she's. I don't know. She was like Lady Pool and Deadpool and Wolverine and all this stuff. I don't know. I don't know why I'm telling you that, except that just a fun fact. Like she's we like our stunt people, and she's a stunt performer who
we always like to give our flowers to the stunt people when we can. Do you have anything else to add on this one, Gary?
No, I don't think so.
I think we've said our piece on Masters of the Universe. Hope you guys go see it, because I want to see a She-Ra live action, please.
I do too. That's the big thing, is I think that this cast is pretty great for this, and I think next time around they'll have their shit together to like lock in on the tone they're looking for. Is what I'm hoping for.
Hopefully. If you want to vote on the next movie that we are going to talk about in July, we're right in the middle of summer blockbuster season, so there are lots of options. Doesn't The Odyssey come out in July? I bet The Odyssey's gonna win, but I have to look and see what the other candidates are. But yeah, if you want to have a say in what we talk about, head to cinemashock.net/plus and join every tier. So starting at the $3 tier, you get voting rights, and we would love for you to make us watch something. You guys have made us watch a lot of good movies this year, actually.
I've liked all of them.
Yeah, it's been very fun. I've been enjoying doing this. In the meantime, we've got a new episode of regular Cinema Shock coming out in just a few days after this lands. So look for that. Our brand new series on John Carpenter is finally beginning. Dark Star's out now. If you want to revisit Dark Star, it's on the feed. If you want to talk about that's an episode we did years ago on his first movie, but then our new series covering his first several movies will be out in just a few days. So if you just discovered us through searching for Masters of the Universe reviews or whatever, you're not familiar with what we do. We normally do big deep dives into movies, into careers of directors, usually older movies. Right now, we are starting a series on the films of John Carpenter. So if you want to hear that, hit subscribe, and you'll be notified as soon as that episode lands. Anything else, Gary? That's it, right?
I think we did it. Thanks for being a part of Cinema Shock Plus and voting for these movies. We appreciate you.
Yeah, we appreciate it, and thank you for listening. You can find all of our stuff at cinemashock.net, CinemaShock, cinema_shock on all of the social media and stuff. You're at This Is Gary Horn.
On all the things. Yeah, that's me.
And I'm Justin_Bishop on all the things. And until next time.
May the wings of liberty never lose a feather.
And be excellent to each other.